Come here, Cinema. Come here. What did you think of Transformers Dark of the Moon? Did you like it, love it, or hate it? She's not going to answer. Sorry. Transformers Dark of the Moon is again directed by Michael Bay, and it's the third installment of the Transformers franchise, and it stars all the same returning cast members with the exclusion of Megan Fox, who was replaced by Rosie Huntington Whiteley as the love interest for Sam Witwicky, Shia LaBeouf's character, and it adds new characters played by actors such as John Malkovich, Francis McDormand, Alan Tudyk, Patrick Dempsey, and the one and only Leonard Nimoy as Sentinel Prime. Now, this movie came out in 2011, so I am going to be talking spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie yet, definitely go see it. Looks like part of this movie is going to be integral to the story of the new one coming out, so if you have plans to go see Transformers The Last Night, you definitely probably need to see this one. When an Autobot ship crash lands on Earth's moon, we find out that the moon landings from the 60s were actually just a cover-up for men to go and explore this ship. And we later find out that the great Sentinel Prime, who was originally the leader of the Autobots before Optimus Prime, he was on the ship as well. So Optimus goes and revives him, and we have all this stuff happening, and eventually Sentinel Prime betrays the Autobots to try and bring Cybertron to Earth's atmosphere/orbit because that's basically how Cybertron is going to survive. After Revenge of the Fallen left a very sour taste in our mouths, I was still excited to see this movie because as bad as Revenge of the Fallen was, it still had good action, still had really good CGI, and I knew that that would only get better in this movie, so I still had some hopes for this movie to be better. After rewatching this movie, I have to say this one is a very close second. It came very close to beating out Transformers, the first one, because this one has a more Transformer character-centered plot. It focuses a lot more on Optimus and Sentinel Prime and Bumblebee even, and it introduces new characters that actually have lines, and there is some drama and emotion to these characters, and I appreciate that because in Revenge of the Fallen they introduce all these new characters, and when the new ones die, it's like, it's just cannon fodder, whatever. And even when Optimus Prime dies, it was okay, you know, it's like, well, that was Optimus, but it happened in the middle of the movie, so we're like, he's going to be brought back to life. And if you had seen the trailers, you knew that there were scenes still existing with Optimus that hadn't shown up yet. Anyway, this one definitely has a more Transformer character-centered plot. It still has the annoying human characters. Alan Tudyk, he's just okay. He comes in with Agent Simmons, who I could have done the movie completely without his character. He adds nothing to the movie. Yes, part of his story is integral to the plot of the entire movie, but they could have done it in a way that they don't have to include his character, because his character is just the worst part about these movies. And unfortunately, I just saw a TV spot this morning with Agent Simmons in the trailer. So that's not good. Also, they added back in the parents of Sam Witwicky, but they're toned down quite a bit in this movie. They only show up for a couple minutes. And part of what they do in this movie is actually quite entertaining. We get this whole job interview sequence of Sam Witwicky, and that was okay, it was fun, it was funny, but it went on a little too long. We get this new character, Dylan, played by Patrick Dempsey. He's just like this guy who is in league with the Decepticons, and he is Rosie Huntington Whiteley's character's boss, who Sam Witwicky is in a relationship with. So, you know, there's like this love triangle type of thing going on, but really it's just so he can get closer to Sam Witwicky because he needs information from him. And then Frances McDormand comes in. She's like this big government official who just, again, I could have done the movie without her. She's the better human character that was added on, but still unnecessary. And of course we get Tyrese Gibson and Josh Duhamel back in their roles. And I actually really enjoyed their characters, especially Tyrese Gibson, because he's like retired from Nest. He's not doing that stuff anymore. He's working with NASA, of course, because, you know, he was in the Air Force, now, of course, NASA. But I just like his character, that he comes back and he's like coming out of retirement. And he was probably the most interesting character, and unfortunately they don't focus too much on him, unfortunately. So after all those human characters, we do get a lot of Autobot characters. We get the return of Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Sideswipe, Ironhide, Ratchet, all those guys that we know a little bit about. We know what they look like, at least. And we know that Optimus is like the fearless leader of the Autobots. But we get introduced to, not really introduced, but we get thrown into the mix. These new characters, Q/Wheeljack is in this movie. He's like an Einstein-looking Transformer. Not really much to say about his character. He's just there. He eventually dies. And that scene has some emotion, but if we had known his character prior to this movie, it would have been a much more powerful, impactful scene. But it's just there. This new character, Dino, he's a Ferrari. It's a really cool car, and everyone thought it was going to be Hot Rod, but no, they named him Dino, because that makes sense. And then we get also introduced to this new character, Brains. He's another small Transformer like Wheelie, but he's like really smart. And that is pretty much it, at least on the Autobot side. We get introduced to a new villain, Shockwave, who we were all super excited to see. When we saw him in the trailer, we're like, yes, Shockwave, he's doing something. And then Soundwave actually does something in this movie, a little bit. He's there for a little bit. Barricade comes back, Starscream is back, Megatron is back, and Sentinel Prime eventually betrays the Autobots and becomes a Decepticon. But this is probably one of the best aspects of this movie, is the Decepticons, the villains. There is a lot of them. There's obviously Megatron, who's the big baddie, and with Sentinel Prime, they're both the big bad guys of the movie. You get Barricade, he's like a general type of guy. We know him because he was in the first one. He wasn't in the second one, but it was cool to see that character return. Then you get Starscream, who is a general of like a second in command or third in command at this point for the Decepticons, and after 2 movies with him, he's survived those 2 big battles, and it's like, okay, this one, he's got to die, and he eventually does die. The worst death of all the Transformers, I would have to say, which is very unfortunate because he gets killed by Sam Witwicky, and not in the way that he killed Megatron in the first one, which was actually okay because it was a big fight scene between him and Optimus, and then eventually Sam Witwicky comes in and just ends him. Both of them were very tired of fighting at that point. But in this one, it's so lame. He gets a bomb shoved in his eye and he goes half blind, and then he gets one. It's just bad. It's really bad. The acting in this movie, for the most part, has improved. We don't have to see Megan Fox trying to act anymore, but Rosie Huntington-Whiteley is only slightly better. She's just okay. Her character is given more to do than Megan Fox's character was ever given to do in any of the other ones, so it's nice to see. Shia LaBeouf definitely brings his A game in this movie. There's a scene where he gets this like Decepticon bug watch thing attached to his wrist, and the way he reacts to it and acts out that scene is actually really well done. You buy it that he's really in horrible pain. And when he cries, he's actually getting these tears flowing. And like he's a good actor, and he actually really tries in this movie. Much more so than the last 2 movies. Patrick Dempsey is just okay. He's there. Frances McDormand, again, she's just there. John Malkovich, his character is really annoying. I could have done the movie without him entirely. Again, this movie does have several subplots. It has less than Revenge of the Fallen, but the subplots that they didn't need include Sam Witwicky getting his job, all this stuff with Agent Simmons. Just none of it was really needed. They could have had the Transformers discover all this stuff, but of course, we can't connect with Transformers characters because they're CGI and they're robots. We need humans to connect with, which is bullcrap. Anyway, the action in this movie is incredible. The CGI is also incredible. Yes, they take explosions to the whole extreme. You know, you get the fireworks, sparklers going off, and it doesn't look quite real, the explosions, but it's bright lights, cool, flashy, and Michael Bay definitely knows how to shoot action. So, I mean, you gotta give him that. So, the action in this movie is quite incredible. You start out with this big action scene with Optimus. It's not quite cool enough. It could have been so much more, but they cut it short. The highway chase scene is one of the best sequences in this entire movie. I love that they like half transform and they're like jumping over cars while they're still basically in their car mode. It's just such an incredible scene, and the way it's shot is just, it's cool. It's a very intense action scene. But the whole Chicago battle is really well done. There are parts in it that just don't make sense. For instance, there's a scene right after Starscream gets killed and Bumblebee saves Sam and Lennox from falling, and then he just kind of drives off, and you get this one line of Sam saying, "Hey, Bumblebee's gonna go get with the other Autobots," and not 20, 30 seconds later, something like that, at least a couple minutes, or at most a couple minutes, you see that all the Autobots have been captured by the Decepticons. It's like, good job, Bumblebee. You really helped out. And I have to say, bad guys in movies are always so stupid, and the good guys are ruthless. This movie is a prime example, pun intended. When the Autobots get captured, they get captured. They don't just get killed right away. The Decepticons just hold them prisoner, and then they're like, you know what? No captives, no trophies, just kill them, whatever. And so they kill Q, aka Wheeljack, which was very disappointing. Wheeljack was supposed to be a really cool character, and they kind of neutered him. Anyway, they kill Wheeljack / Q, and it's supposed to be like this horrible, just, oh, it's so emotional. And the music is really well done in this scene. But then they're about to kill Bumblebee. It's like, why are they doing them one at a time? The Autobots would just be like, boom, 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 they're dead. And we actually do see that at the end of this scene, because not only do the Decepticons not kill all the Autobots, but Bumblebee single-handedly kills like 2 or 3 of the Decepticons right then and there. Soundwave being one of them. Yeah, they kill off Soundwave like that. And I don't know, Soundwave should have been so much cooler than he was, but he's just there. So they finally had the balls to kill off one of the more important Autobot characters in the form of Ironhide. He gets killed by Sentinel Prime when Sentinel decides now's the time to betray the Autobots because Optimus isn't here. That scene where he dies is actually, you know, I was more sad about Ironhide dying in this one than it was about Optimus dying in Revenge of the Fallen. Simply because this one was a much better movie up to that point than Revenge of the Fallen was up to that point. So it made the death more impactful. When you have a better movie, you get better reactions from audience. Again, the score by Steve Jablonsky is very well done. I love the Sentinel Prime theme. It's a slight variation on the Autobot theme, but it's really subtly epic, and it plays really well. It's a good inspirational song, I think. And again, we get the return of Linkin Park as the big music artist for the movie. But the song that they chose, I thought played really well for the movie, and it was probably the best inclusion of Linkin Park, other than the first movie. In Revenge of the Fallen, they used the Linkin Park song way too much, and it kind of got annoying after a while. I think they used it like 2 or 3, maybe 4 times in the movie, so you know, it's like, oh, okay, we've heard this song plenty of times. In this one, it's played off really well. Yes, they use it twice, but it's used in a more dramatic sense, in a more like, this is either hopeless or at the end it becomes hopeful. So it plays really well. The idea to bring Cybertron into Earth's orbit to save Cybertron makes no sense at all. Now, I'm no scientist, but I know that if you have 2 planets that close together, they're eventually probably going to collide, and it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be good for anybody. And of course, that was really just a reason to include a big, giant blue beam shooting up into the sky like every blockbuster now seems to have. It's in almost every movie. Fantastic Four, Suicide Squad, Avengers. It's everywhere. But this movie obviously decided to put it in there as well. And one more thing I have to say, the ending to this movie is so abrupt. We get like this whole huge action, this epicness going on in the downtown Chicago area. Optimus Prime kills a lot of people. And then like 45 seconds later, the credits are rolling. It's the most abrupt ending to any movie that I've ever seen, I swear. So overall, guys, this movie is definitely very enjoyable. It's a big action movie. You're not going for the plot and the storytelling, but it does have those elements, and it's much better written than the last one, but only slightly edged out by Transformers in 2007 because the magic was there. It was the first time we saw Transformers on the big screen in live action in all their glory. But this one definitely has a more Transformer character-centered plot, but it has still too many human subplots that we could have done without. And the runtime of this movie is pretty darn long, and that's because of all the human subplots. But overall, guys, again, this movie is very enjoyable. I give Transformers Dark of the Moon a B. It was so close to being a B+ and tying with Transformers, but again, those human subplots just ugh. But the action just saves this movie every time, saves these movies every time. The final battle kind of feels a little like Black Hawk Down, and that's kind of how they explained how it would be, because the Autobots are behind enemy lines, and they got to figure out how to maneuver within the city. And I think that was my favorite aspect of this movie, is it does feel more like a war. So what did you guys think of Transformers Dark of the Moon? Did you like it, love it, or hate it? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm going to be continuing my Transformers review series with Age of Extinction next week, followed shortly after by my top 10 things that I want to see in Transformers The Last Night. So be on the lookout for those videos, guys. I'm definitely excited to be doing them. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a big ol' thumbs up, share it if you feel like it, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you hit that bell icon next to the subscribe button so you can be notified of when we upload new content. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.